Welcome back to Tide Pod on the YouTube home of Tide Illustrated. Jack Knowlton, Tony Tsoukalis with a very easy recap, as easy as it was on the field for Alabama against Mercer on Saturday. Alabama 52, Mercer 7. First things first, Tony, I think we need to shout out our site owner, Kelly Quinlan, for correctly picking the score this week. I don't know if we've had that happen I know we do our staff picks every week. And of all games, I don't know if maybe it's easier to pick a blowout, but you never really know how much of a blowout it's going to be. But shout out to him. He picked 52-7 pregame, and he saw the future for Alabama.
Yeah, I mean, picking a score with a field goal in Alabama is gutsy. And so for him to do that, yeah, no shout out to Kelly. That's kind of sad that, like, we have you, me, Henry, Jordan, and him, and times whatever 10. And we haven't gotten one right yet. That's rough.
It's like,
you think that, like, there's only so many, like, logical score. Are you sure that's the only one we've gotten right?
That's at least the first one that I remember.
I know, just like I think documented. I wonder if anyone else has gotten it right. I know I haven't gotten it right though.
I have not. I was close on. I've been close like once or twice, but yeah, definitely. But
we definitely would have heard it if Henry would have gotten it. So actually, yeah. It probably isn't, because Henry would have definitely gotten excited over that.
So yeah, shout out to that first and foremost. But yes, Alabama 52, Mercer 7. The Tide takes care of business. No drama, no weirdness with an FCS team. Most importantly, Tony, and I know you noted this in your gamer, no injuries of any significance, at least that occurred in the game, which I think is the number one thing you really want to see if you're an Alabama fan watching this. But Alabama 52, Mercer 7. Just your overall thoughts on a nice easy day in Bryant-Denny. I know stories were able to be written very fast from a journalist.
I was really rooting for that odd. Like, at one point, Caden Proctor was going to have recovered a fumble in the end zone for a touchdown, and like I was really rooting for like that to happen, because you had a couple of things that were like just odd in general. You had Robbie Utes getting his first touchdown. Unfortunately, it wasn't on a handoff. We're still working on that, still willing that into existence. But yeah, he caught a touchdown pass, almost caught 2 touchdown passes. And then you had Alabama get its first non-offensive touchdown. We've been waiting all year for that. It came via Zabian Brown on a fumble recovery. Is interestingly enough, I talked to Qua Russaw, almost falls on that ball, doesn't fall on it, it bounces up into Zabian's hands, and Zabian returns it, I think, 44 yards or something like that for a touchdown, something in that area. Just nice to kind of break the seal for Alabama. It'd been too long. I was kind of wondering if they were going to make it all season without having a non-offensive touchdown or a defensive score. So yeah, good to see them get that off the board. Saw a few backups score. Look, who would have thought that Austin Mack, coming in from Washington this offseason, is the first backup quarterback of the bunch of his career to throw a touchdown pass. Ty Simpson has a few running touchdowns in his bag, but Austin Mack actually records a passing touchdown before Ty Simpson. That is something I didn't see happening. So a little weird. There was a lot of like weird stuff like that. Rico Scott obviously was on the receiving end of that, so he got his first Alabama touchdown. Not as strange because he's a freshman. But there's a lot of just like, kind of quirky stuff. That's what you get in these games. But most important thing is no injuries, not much drama. We did, however, and this has nothing to do with the game, but we did, however, learn, this is being recorded on a Monday, anyone holding out hope for a Keon Sabb return this season. Looks like he's going to be out for the year with his foot injury. Broken feet are kind of hard to come back from if you're in the secondary. You just need to be able to move so well, and any kind of limitation, and it's just really tough to come back from that. It's probably best, even if he could come back, that he fully heals from that, because he's going to be an important piece for Alabama next year. So unfortunate. The fortunate side to that is Bray Hubbard's been amazing for Alabama. So I don't think, obviously you're going to be hurting in terms of depth, but I think Bray Hubbard comes in the way he's been playing the last 3 games. he's playing just as well as Keon Sabb was, arguably better. So I think that he's been super solid. I don't think you're necessarily even losing anything there. So yeah, from an injury standpoint, I think you're pretty good, and you just kind of move forward. Got 2 more games, and then we'll probably end up talking about the playoff picture. But it's looking like Alabama has possibly even a trip to Atlanta, an unexpected trip to Atlanta.
Yeah, there's a lot with that going forward in the next couple of weeks. Like you said, the chaos scenarios in the SEC, the playoff, that's all still in front of Alabama. And yeah, even more so a possible trip to the SEC championship, which is more of a long-term thing. But you mentioned some of the quirks, some of the fun stuff. I think, that is the important thing to talk about here with this game. Less about the Jalen Milrose, the Ryan Williamses, the Jahad Campbell, who had another insane game on the defensive end. You got to talk about some of those reserves for sure. I think, Tony, and I'll just go back to what you were saying to start with the quarterback play. It was really nice to be able to see all 3 backups. It was really nice in general to see, and I know
4 backups. Give walk-on Cade Carruth and his 3 handoffs.
Yes, sorry.
Yeah, I didn't write about him. I didn't write about him in my column, and somebody called me out. Not much I can say about it, him handing the ball off. But actually, credit to Kalen DeBoer for getting the walk-on, getting all 4 of his scholarship quarterbacks in, and then a 5th guy, just to hand it off.
Yeah. So, and like you said, DeBoer, and I know Jahad Campbell mentioned that after the game as well. They take a lot of pride in being able to see these guys, these walk-ons, these, reserves who knew probably going into the season, a lot of them, that they weren't going to get as much playing time. Maybe they're young, maybe they're a walk-on. And to see them have those moments, or their moment in the sun, literally in Bryant-Denny on Saturday, to be able to play and make an impact and have that memory is obviously great. But let's start with the quarterbacks, Tony. I mean, what did you make of Simpson, Lonergan, Mack? You talked about Cade Carruth's performance. So we got him out of the way. You mentioned Mack throwing the touchdown. Obviously, this is going to be a team with an interesting quarterback scenario, assuming Milroe goes off to the NFL next year. What'd you see from the backups in their opportunities to play?
I think, and maybe I was just expecting Ty Simpson to come in and light it up. I think I was a little bit too hard on him in my instant grades and my instant analysis. When I went back and watched it, he made a lot of really good plays to kind of extend. He had some pressure. You got to think that he's not playing with the first team offense too. So he made a lot of athletic plays where, I mean, obviously he had that crazy, escape sack and then just heave it downfield. I will say though, I didn't actually like that play. I mean, I guess if it's intercepted, it kind of serves as a punt and you're punting it next play anyways. But I think most SEC defenses pick that off. So, I guess I was a little bit underwhelmed with Ty Simpson's deep balls. He kind of overthrew, what was it, Kobe Prentice. He had a few of them that I just thought, I expected him to hit some of those because I hold him in really high regard. On the flip side, though, I think he made some great athletic plays. I think that he was able to zip the ball out to the perimeter really nicely. And so maybe I was a little bit too harsh on him, in my initial grade. So I think overall he had a solid day. I was expecting him to really tear it up. And I don't necessarily think you'd say that he tore it up. Especially if you look at his numbers, if you take away that long completion to Josh Cuevas, that kind of Hail Mary, if you will, his numbers kind of go off if you take that away. So I give him I don't know, a B, I guess. I didn't actually do grades, but I think I'd give Ty Simpson somewhere a B. Dylan Lonergan was kind of cool. He was good. Kind of the same things with Ty, where he kind of just zipped the ball out. He did a lot more short passes. I think there was a pass on 3rd down. It was either 3rd or 4th down. Now I can't remember, but he really fit a ball into a tight window to pick up an 8-yard or something gain on it was a crucial down, whether it was 3rd or 4th. I forget now at the moment, but that was probably his best pass of the game. I thought that was pretty good. And then Austin Mack, you only saw him for 5 snaps. It's hard to, you can overreact. He did have that nice touchdown pass. I know some people, I tweeted about it and said it was an absolute dime. It was kind of wobbly, I guess. The placement on that ball, though, couldn't have been placed better. I think that, he put it in a window where only Rico Scott could catch it. And that's a big time throw for someone that, is coming cold off the bench, doesn't get a lot of game time, doesn't have a lot of reps to his name. To get that touchdown pass. I think he's got a huge arm and somebody that, talk about someone that can fit Kalen DeBoer's offense. Like, obviously, he was recruited by Kalen DeBoer at Washington. I think he would really fit in. I don't think any of these guys are going to challenge Ty Simpson when it comes to Jalen Milroe moving on. But I like Austin Mack as being someone that kind of can maybe make things interesting. I don't see a world where Ty Simpson doesn't start. Even Qua Russaw, who's so good and a 5-star coming in, I don't see him starting over Ty Simpson. But just I could see Austin Mack, if he's patient, he might be able to at least push Ty and maybe create some more competition and maybe push him to a higher level. You look at it like a Dylan Lonergan, he had a great game. I think Dylan Lonergan's too talented to wait any longer. And I kind of expect him, I'm not speaking for him. He could stay, he could be patient, but I kind of see him probably testing the transfer waters after this season. I kind of see him maybe stepping into a situation. You look at Eli Holstein, who went to Pitt and is starting for Pitt on a ranked team and having a really successful first season there. I could see Dylan Lonergan doing the same thing. And look, when you recruit good quarterbacks like that, you're going to have to deal with that. You're going to have to deal with only one person can play, and you're going to lose some good quarterbacks. I think Alabama might end up losing Dylan Lonergan, and he's a good quarterback, and he looked good. I just don't know if he's in the plans, So I could see him going to, school X, and it won't just be like, Jacksonville State or Troy or, he'll go to probably, a big time, a notable, Power 4 team and probably do well. And he'd probably be a really in the market, transferred in a couple of, maybe even a couple of weeks.
Yeah, that's another good reminder that all of that kind of opens up for us in less than a month with that transfer window in December. But yeah, I think you make a good point about, this was kind of lauded as one of the deeper QB rooms in the country, and I think they all showed why on Saturday. I think they all made some really nice plays and took pretty good advantage of their opportunity. And obviously Austin Mack getting the touchdown, I'm sure he'll be, really excited to have that. And you mentioned the man he threw it to, Rico Scott. First of all, great catch. I went back and watched it just a second ago. It was a great catch by him in the end zone to do that. But you had a lot of guys catch passes in this game. Obviously, Richard Young was involved, had a touchdown at running back. So a couple of young players getting involved there. Some of those skill guys, what'd you think of some of them? Anyone in particular stand out to you at all from a skill position with some extended snaps for some of those guys?
Well, I mean, it's kind of tough. I think you probably go to Rico Scott with that catch. I mean, it's just you're getting the opportunities when you can get them. Richard Young always impresses me. He's just a hard runner. I know he didn't do anything like spectacular. I'm looking at his numbers now. He had 7 rushes for 26 yards, but he's just a guy I think that, runs really hard and is going to be, possibly a difference maker. As far as like skill guys that just look good, I mean, like Caleb Odom looks good. He didn't really do anything crazy, but I think he's a player. He almost had a reception, a nice reception there. So he's a guy that I think will be impressive moving forward. I think he just overall had like a solid game. I mean, like Alabama really spread the ball out a lot. So you had a few of these guys. I mean, look at people that like Ty Lockwood got his first catch. Jay Lindsey got his first catch. Bubba Hampton got his first catch. You know what I'm saying? So like these guys are all getting a chance to play and get a ton of, production, but it's still nice to see them kind of get on the stat sheet in a game or in a season where they're, usually not even getting those opportunities. So I think that the future's bright, but there's only so much you can draw out of a small sample size against an FCS opponent.
Yeah, that's very fair. I liked what I saw. Like you mentioned, the Caleb Odom near connection with Milroe. That seemed good. I think, he's been kind of an interesting figure as one of these young players. Obviously, there was the stuff after it was either the Vanderbilt or Tennessee game. I'm forgetting which, with some retweets and, We heard from Nick Sheridan today talk about him as a player who's had nothing but a great attitude in practice. And, it looks like he's got some good potential. And to me, you saw the reason why Alabama is only looking to recruit 1 or 2 wide receivers in this class. Is there are a lot of young guys waiting in the wings here.
And a guy that we've just
good.
totally forgotten about is Jalen Hale, a guy that I think a
Right.
lot of people thought was going to be a starter this year, suffered a season-ending injury in the preseason. He's a guy that I think, assuming he can come back and get back to the level he was kind of rising to, he could be in the mix for a starting role. I mean, he was going to be in the mix for a starting role this year. And you kind of look, who all's coming back. Ryan Williams is going to be back. I kind of think, I mean, you never know these days, but I would think that Jeremy Bernard would come back, right? I don't necessarily see him as he's good. I feel like he could benefit from another year. But you never know. Maybe, especially if he catches fire late, he could leave. But there's still, even if he doesn't leave, I think that there's, some guys too that, you thought maybe at the beginning of the season, I thought that Kendrick Law was going to leave. I thought he was going to have a huge year and leave. I'd be shocked if Kendrick Law left, or at least left for the NFL draft. I don't know, the transfer portal, it can be open for anyone, but
right.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if he left. So yeah, you're going to return a lot of production, and you have a lot of young guys. So I think they're well set with receiver.
Yeah, I would agree. I think they're looking good. And running back too, like you obviously have to see.
Yeah.
We've talked all
Daniel
season.
Hill too. We got to see him run the ball.
Yeah, Daniel Hill, Kevin Riley, the local product, had a couple of 2 catches for 9 yards as well as 4 yards on the ground. So you got to see some of those guys. So I think, the offensive skill guys, I think it'll be really interesting to see where they go moving forward, or how they kind of develop. And I think there's a reason why, Keelan Russell aside, there hasn't been a huge emphasis from a recruiting standpoint on some of those positions, because I think they just really like what they have going. You're never not going to not recruit a position usually, but they've got some guys coming in. But I think that's a really good potential. There's really good potential at running back, at wide receiver, without a doubt. I'll flip over to the other side of the ball, Tony. I'm going to ask about one guy in particular, not as much of a reserve or deeper on the depth chart. This is a guy that's been involved this year, was a starter earlier, going to continue to be relied on even more heavily. It's Qua Russaw, Tony. Obviously had another pick, 3 tackles. I know Kane Womack gave him kind of some flowers on Monday when he was asked about him. Obviously, it's Mercer. That is what it is, and you're going to be expecting a lot from this guy. He gets another takeaway. What'd you think of him? And it seems like he's going to give them a lot the rest of this year.
I made a joke talking about how bad the quarterbacking situation was at Missouri and I said, when Qua Russaw is getting an interception, things are bad. And then he's proven me wrong. That guy, is a second. I would have never thought it's somebody, 251 pounds. What is he? 6'4", 251 pounds would have 2 interceptions. He's just not, he's more of like a, edge rusher, like a heavier edge rusher. The play he made on that tipped ball was outstanding. It's what an athletic play. I don't think he gets enough credit for his athleticism, and especially with his size. And so, I think he is just an absolute. Look, Qua Russaw tied for the team lead in interceptions. Who would have thought? Listed up at 6'2". No, not even 6'4". Yeah, so 6'2", 251. So he's an absolute unit. He's one of these thick kind of players, and to be able to kind of bend his body and then to scoop the ball before it hits the ground. That was such a. I wish we had a video of it playing right now, but it was look that play up on Twitter or X or whatever. It was an extremely athletic play, and it just shows kind of the athleticism he has. And obviously we know his pass rushing ability and his ability to set the edge against the run. So he's kind of a do-it-all guy. Alabama's obviously going to need him to step up with Q Robinson out for the year, but I think they're in a good spot. Once again, it's kind of like the situation with Keon Russell, and not Keon Russell, Keon Sabb, and Bray Hubbard. You know, you got Qua Russaw, who's kind of ready to step in. He can be that guy, and I don't think they're really losing anything with him. So yeah, really athletic play. You know, it's just somebody that I think Alabama's going to really count on. You know, and another guy too that like made a nice little pass rush. You know, it's so often you talk about some of these guys that come in and make a difference, and you only talk about the skill position players or the offensive players. But Ja'Shawn Ross, I think he had a nice little quarterback hurry, if I remember right. So kudos to him. Talk about young players, an edge rusher coming in. You know, I think that's another name to watch too. So I mean, yeah, there's you got to see a lot of younger guys step up, and I guess you can still call Qua Russaw a younger guy, right?
Yeah, he still counts him in a redshirt freshman. He's definitely got the better years ahead of him, so you know he's not running away anytime soon, at least for the pros. But yeah, I mean it shows the versatility of that Wolf position, right? Where I feel like that's what we've heard all year long from Christian Robinson, the linebackers coaches. You have to, you know, be able to go make plays like that and to be able to be versatile and do different things in order to play that position. So I think that suggests, you know, some really strong promise for Qua Russaw in terms of him anchoring that position in the future. You mentioned Bray Hubbard, obviously Zay Mincy, another one, you know, who's, or not Zay Mincy, excuse me, Xavier Brown, another one who's a starter and got that scoop and score for the first non-offensive touchdown. That was a crazy play. Some of these younger defensive players, Tony, Ja'Shawn Ross as well. You mentioned him.
I mean, Zay Mincy played in this one, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm trying to pull up exactly what he did, but yeah, he actually had 13 snaps. You know, didn't really record any stats, but you know, good to see him out there. I think he was targeted once and didn't allow a reception. So I mean, yeah, you know, solid day. Like, just like to see those guys get on the field because you know, who knows with an injury, another injury down the road, still got plenty of season to play. You might need those guys to step up. So good to see them get in a game like this.
Yeah, absolutely. A guy too I like, Justin Okoronkwo. It was good to see him get a couple tackles. I think he's one that's like, he's kind of a lot of people's trendy good player of the future. He had that really good A-Day game that I think is stuck in everyone's brain. But I like him.
A really athletic guy. I know that I was talking with someone that knows him, and like you know, I don't know if he'll ever get to do it or if you know what the situation would call for, but he's a guy that can like do a backflip. And if you look at his yeah, you look at how big he is, that's pretty impressive. I mean, he's a 6'3", 228 guy. I'd love to see him get like a knot and then do a backflip in the end zone. That would just be fun to see a dude that big do that. But I've heard he has that athleticism in his bag, so just maybe something to watch in the future.
Yeah, that's a good note. We got to keep that on the back burner. Everyone who's surprised when that clip goes viral when he does a backflip after making a sack, you know, we'll just remember Tide Illustrated was the first. They told you, you know, he's got that. Justin's got that in his bag. You mentioned as well, Tony, that there was a field goal in this game. Graham Nicholson got a chance to finally. Or not finally, but make another impact. He didn't attempt a field goal.
45-yarder too.
Yeah, not a bad field goal attempt. Yeah. What did you make of special teams in this one? Because this was, of course, like after LSU, that was kind of DeBoer's main area of, you know, didn't really go as well as we would have liked it. Some big kickoff returns. Yeah. Again, it's Mercer,
so you know, kudos to Graham Nicholson who made his 45-yard field goal. I think special teams was maybe the one part of this game though that wasn't as savory for Alabama. Our hero James Burnap, normally reliable, had two just kind of gross punts. I think he had a 20-yarder and a 29-yarder. Very uncharacteristic of him. He's usually super reliable. Obviously, it doesn't matter. I guess if you're gonna have a bad game, make it Mercer. Also, didn't have to punt that much because it was Mercer. So. I guess all's well that ends well, but for special teams, I guess, you know, you talk about a complete game on offense and defense where both of them have a complete game. Sometimes Alabama can't do that on special teams where either Graham Nicholson has not the best game or they do something else. And then, normally it's James Burnham kind of helping that grade when I'm doing the instant grades. This time it was Graham Nicholson carrying it and James Burnham kind of having a rare shocker, but I think Alabama's in good shape with the special teams. I don't expect any of that to carry over for James Burnham, and it is nice to see Graham Nicholson hit a field goal. I don't know about you, and I don't know about Alabama fans, but I'm very confident when Graham Nicholson steps up to kick a field goal. I know the numbers aren't necessarily there, and but he hasn't had a lot of opportunities, but I think he's when he steps up for a field goal, I feel pretty confident. It's just so rare that we see that now, but he's 5 of 7. I think that's that's pretty good. He hasn't missed an extra point yet. He's 48 of 48 on those. So he's not having maybe the Lou Groza season that he had last year, but he's also not getting those opportunities.
Yeah, I think it's just, he's made 71.4% of his field goals, which is not a really flattering sounding number, but like you said, it's 5 of 7. He's just missed 2. He has not really had the opportunities to make a game.
Yeah, he makes his next 3 and he's at 80%. You know what I'm saying? Right. And so it's not that crazy. He just doesn't have a lot of attempts.
Yeah, and I think more recently that's a testament to Alabama's, offense getting in the end zone. I think it was, at the beginning of the season, you saw a lot of scoring on explosive plays, even if it wasn't, sustained. You don't really have a lot of drives that end with field goals with this team. That's just kind of the sort of make or break nature of it at times. And so, yeah, we have yet to see him in a game-winning field goal scenario. I don't think as a fan you necessarily are going to wish that into existence because you're not going to want to be in a game that comes down to that. You want to just win it before. But yeah, I think Graham will be okay. DeBoer had some nice words for Jay Nunez, the special teams coach, on Monday. Just kind of talked about him being sort of a good voice for the entire team, trying to promote special teams with all the players, everyone's in those meetings, all that type of deal. So yeah, I think Alabama, they're not the 2011 Chargers. That's a reference that some big NFL fans will understand. But yeah, I think they'll be okay with special teams moving forward.
They were supposed to be the 2011 Chargers, and they can be the 2011 Chargers. They do have the Lou Groza Award winner from last year, and they have the I'm assuming the 2011 Chargers were good, by the way.
No, the illusion is that they're bad. The 2011 Chargers had the #1 offense, the #1 defense, and the worst special teams unit in the NFL.
Oh, that's right. Okay, yeah, never mind.
My implication with there was that they were bad.
Yeah. There goes me trying to run off of a reference that I didn't actually know. But yeah, I was gonna say that they could have a great special teams. They have all the pieces to have a really special team.
Yeah,
they will not be the 2011 Chargers. I'll tell you that. If that is the case, then they will not be that because there's just too much talent in that unit.
Yeah, they have been better. They will be better. I think I want to keep saying Graham Nicholson will have his chance to shine, but again, I guess we'll see. And James Burnup's been largely good. I think if there's a game to have a letdown game as a punter, it's the Mercer game. So
we're going to see the ending of this season will come down to a 60-yard field goal that Connor Talty will nail. And just that's going to be the hero they know. So
the hero Alabama never knew it needed. Other just final takeaways from this game, Tony. Maybe things we didn't touch on that impressed you. If you had anything with the starters, that you took from this, but just final thoughts and just impressions.
Kudos to Jeremy Bernard for his block on Ryan Williams' touchdown run. That he took out 2 different dudes. You don't really. Jeremy Bernard had 5 catches for 82 yards. But 4 catches for 81 yards. But I thought the most impressive thing he did was that block, and it just shows that even the skilled players on Alabama, even the playmakers are, they'll roll up their sleeves and do the dirty work on this team. And I think that kind of stuff's contagious. And to see him do that and kind of set up his teammate, that's just the kind of things you want to see, especially in this kind of game where you almost are concerned that people are going to be playing at half speed. I thought that was really, really cool to see from Jeremy Bernard.
Yeah, I saw you tweet about that, and I was watching the game on TV, and I went and like wound the playback and just looked more closely on the replay. And yeah, that was a hell of a block. He blocked 2 people. So yeah, you've seen that from him this year. I mean, they've taken a lot of pride in blocking. Some of these skill guys have. I know the running backs have gotten some praise for that. Justice Haynes, Jam Miller made some big blocks. Kendrick Laws had a couple big ones. In the,
Obviously, you got
second
people like
level.
Robbie Yates. He got the score in this game, but he's been, a huge block guy. Like you look at all the big runs that Alabama gets, like this is not an actual stat, but it feels like 80% of them come from a Robbie Yates block. So yeah, you've got some pretty good, I guess skill position blocking on this team.
Yeah, absolutely. And a credit to you as well. You didn't name him as your player to watch pregame, but I feel like I remember you in the podcast saying this feels like a good game to have Ryan Williams just kind of be re-unleashed. And obviously he had
you kind of
nice
felt like
day.
he needed to get in the end zone just to kind of get those juices flowing again. And so I figured Alabama would have a few plays drawn up for him, and sure enough, they did.
Yeah, he was in the end zone. You did say Richard Young as your player of the game, who also scored a touchdown. So
that was well, he did score a touchdown.
Right.
I wouldn't necessarily call him the player of the game. He had 7 rushes for 26 yards. Just a solid, but not. I was expecting him to get a little bit more production, but that's fine. He, not going to complain about that day.
That's very fair. So obviously, moving forward from this one, not too much to take away from a single game standpoint against Mercer. It's good Alabama took care of business and didn't get injured. But Tony, let's finish the show with a little bit of speculation time, because we're obviously going to have a show for you guys on Friday previewing Oklahoma. That's of course where we'll talk about Alabama's college football playoff ranking after it comes out on Tuesday. You're going to be listening to this on Monday or maybe Tuesday before that time. But, going forward, Tony, after another kind of wild weekend in college football, Alabama's got a lot in front of it. We don't have to go too in the weeds of the scenarios, but kind of a fun world exists where, these next 2 games, obviously you have to win them and you need to show up. But Alabama, playing for a lot here potentially, and even more, like you said at the top of the show, than they maybe even thought heading into these last couple weeks.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, who's going to get screwed on Tuesday? Is it going to be Tennessee for beating Alabama but then dropping below Alabama, which I think is a possibility? Or is it going to be Alabama for having its resume depleted because of an LSU loss? That would be ironic, because it seemed like nobody cared about Alabama's 4 ranked wins, and now they're caring that they're gone. I feel like Alabama could have been ranked higher last week with 4 ranked wins, and then everyone was kind of consumed with the 2 losses, so they didn't want to put them up. It's the 2 losses, and now all of a sudden Alabama loses one of those ranked wins, and it's like, oh my gosh, their resume is taking a hit. It's like, well, no one cared about the resume before, right? So, I think from an Alabama standpoint, they would be screwed if, Tennessee was above them. But then I think, from a Tennessee standpoint, you look at, you're like, well, geez, we beat Alabama, right? So it's just kind of interesting to kind of see. And then you also have Ole Miss in there too. And Ole Miss is like, well, we beat Georgia and we didn't get to play Alabama, but we've got a big win too. Like, well, we beat LSU, Alabama beat LSU, Ole Miss kind of has a very similar, resume to Alabama's. So it's just kind of like, do they get left out or do they get put behind everyone? It's really interesting. So, and then obviously you got Georgia, who just beat Tennessee, just recorded a big win, and also has a win over Texas. Really, the team that's kind of getting to skate by in the SEC is Texas, because they haven't really beaten anybody, but they only have that 1 loss. They're kind of like the SEC's Penn State, right? They're just getting by not playing anyone. But we'll have to see how that all plays out. I could see Alabama being 8, maybe 7. I could see them staying at 10. I don't necessarily see them dropping to 11, but I guess that's possible. It'd be weird to drop Alabama at this point. But I could see them staying, or they maybe moving up to at most 7. Really, when you look at it, though, none of that might not matter, because I think if Alabama wins out, and I think most scenarios now, if Alabama wins out, they're going to Atlanta. So
the real basic one is if Tennessee, I believe, and Missouri win out. Ironically, that's like what puts Alabama in, which is, I think, or they both of them need to win one.
Does Alabama still need the Missouri win over Arkansas now that?
I believe they need both of those 2 teams to win one more game. And then
just one more.
Went out.
Doesn't have to be okay. So like, doesn't Missouri play like Mississippi State or something?
Correct. Yep. This weekend.
So they're gonna get. I think they're gonna get a win. You know, like I don't know if they're gonna beat Arkansas. They shoot. I mean, Missouri looked like a better team than we were giving them credit for. So maybe maybe they do win out. But I think they definitely win one. And I think Alabama. I don't see Alabama losing to Oklahoma or Auburn. So they'll go to the SEC championship game. The interesting thing is if they lose in the SEC championship game, is Alabama in? There's kind of building some smoke and some noise towards yes. I think like the common conception is that like that SEC that SEC team that does go and lose is going to make it, even if it has 3 losses. Whether that's Alabama, whether that's somehow Tennessee, maybe. If you go and you make it and you lose, I think you're still going to creep in maybe at that 12 spot or something like that. But it's crazy that Alabama, at one point, who would have thought after the Vanderbilt loss, after the Tennessee loss, that Alabama could be repeating as SEC title, champions. But it's the definite possibility. And who's to count them out against Texas? I mean, or Texas A&M. I think that both of those games are winnable. So I think Alabama could win the SEC title. It's a possibility. And that obviously I think would put Alabama, I would say, probably the number 2 seed heading into the playoff. Obviously you get the bye then. So there's a whole bunch of things. Moving forward, I don't really think you have to pay attention to where Alabama falls in the rankings now, because they control their destiny. So like they're either going to lose and none of this is going to matter, or they're going to lose in the SEC championship game and then they're going to it really won't matter. Like they'll probably get like the 12th seed or the 11th seed, so it won't matter where they are now, or they're going to win the SEC title and
they'll get the automatic bid.
So, like, you can get upset about where Alabama is. I don't think it matters now that they basically control their destiny in the SEC. I guess like there's some scenarios where they could, they want to be able to host. I just don't see that happening. I don't think Alabama is going to host a playoff game, because they're either going to lose another game or not play in the first round at all.
Right. There's your chaos roundup from Tony. I think the best way to sum it up for me is we could be ending a season potentially where Alabama's 2 ranked wins in a year where they were going into playing Georgia, Oklahoma, Tennessee, Missouri, who were all ranked, and I think all of them ranked in the top 10 besides Tennessee. And you might be ending a season where your only 2 ranked wins are Georgia and South Carolina of all teams, because of course they're still in the mix.
How crazy would it be if Alabama finishes above Tennessee in both years that Tennessee beat Alabama? Like, right. Like that's, talk about not capitalizing off of your success. For Tennessee to beat Alabama, 2 of the last 3 years, and then Alabama finishes ahead of them. It hasn't happened yet, right? But it could, and I think it will. That's got to be deflating for Tennessee fans.
There's a good spin to end it as well. So there you go. Keep an eye on things on Tuesday. But yeah, Alabama might be steamrolling toward a trip back to Atlanta. Might need to get your hotels booked if you're an Alabama fan. Get ready to head back there, try and defend that title. But yeah, we will obviously keep you updated on all the playoff scenarios and chaos that is to come. We'll obviously have a preview back on here on YouTube on Friday for you. And go subscribe to Tide Illustrated. We have a ton of team stuff, ton of recruiting stuff as well as we get nearer and nearer to the early signing window. Just had the Rivals re-rankings. Qua Russaw, the number 3 recruit in the country from Rivals.com. So big fans of the Duncanville quarterback and future Alabama superstar, depending on who you ask.
What was that for him? Did he move up from 5 to 3? Isn't that?
He was 10th. He jumped 7 spots.
Okay.
Yep. So jumped up 7 spots. He is Alabama's highest rated recruit. It's a good class for the Crimson Tide. But yeah, go subscribe there for all of that great recruiting and team coverage. Got a ton of basketball stuff over there as well. Subscribe here. Keep an eye for Friday's episode where we preview Oklahoma. We will see you next time.